cowboy hats and everything. Good morning, all. I'm supposed to read to you this prepared text. Apparently he was uncomfortable yesterday. Just read this and be quiet. Okay, I'll sit down. Yeah, really. Which is okay until I get in my sermon. I go, how did I get here? Dennis Milburn has a passion for helping people with money issues. He's about to share some firsthand experiences he's learned on a journey that he and his wife have followed since probably they've been married. Where is she? Oh, there she is. I was looking for Bobby. Okay. He will share their hard-learned lessons so that maybe we won't have to learn from the school of hard knocks. This presentation comes from a Christian background that they believe has been a tremendous blessing as they have partnered with God to provide for their needs. Dennis has worked in the financial nonprofit sector his entire career. He has a degree in business, has made it his life's goal to be in control of their finances instead of letting finances be in control of him or them. And best of all, he has nothing to sell. So you can leave your checkbook out if you'd like. It's all right. So it is my pleasure to introduce my friend and one-time co-worker. I guess we're still working together. Yeah. But I still get paid and he doesn't get paid as much.
Yeah.
So please welcome Dennis Milburn.
All right. Thank you very much. Certainly good to be here with you and to share a 5-part series of personal finance. What I want to share with you is our personal experience that early on in our life, prior to, planning for, and during retirement. I grew up in a home where neither of my parents knew how to handle money properly. My father was a wannabe farmer. He would work for someone else, get enough money, and then he would borrow some money and go to farming until it was all gone, and then he would have to go back and work for somebody else again. My mother was a person who loved to move. We lived in 7 houses before I got to high school. And as you know, moving is expensive, and she liked to move to different states, so that was expensive. Fortunately, my 3 siblings and I survived, and none of us are hurt financially. We're all debt-free. A major thing that our parents taught us was a good work ethic. You know, I thought I was fairly frugal when I grew up. My mother used to laugh at my older brother, about my older brother. She said, "Denny, you used to loan money to your older brother at interest." And so that's how I got started. So I've been kind of that way all my life. I have a business degree and a master's in business, but I was no match for what I was about to learn from my nurse-trained wife that helped me, that makes a penny squeal. In fact, at times I have to twist her arm to take her out to eat. Now that's a unique woman, right? Yeah. And that certainly helped us tremendously when we decided to live on one income and supplement that with her part-time work to help provide for little things and also while she was taking care of our daughter. Because we've used these principles, I will be sharing we are totally debt-free. We've never paid any interest on our credit card. We have no car payments and haven't for 30 years. Our house is paid off. My interest is not in selling things, but I have a passion to help people stay within their income. Now, I must admit that if you're earning minimum wage, that is going to be a significant challenge to live on one income. I worked with a person in the finance area, and they told me their experience in doing personal finance seminars. So he was talking and sharing, and somebody in the group laughed at something that he said, something that he did. And he said, after that, I am not going to do any more because I just don't want to be laughed at. Well, I thought about that, and I said, you know, it's worth the risk. If I can help someone to not make one mistake in their life, to help destroy their finances, it's going to be worth you laughing at me. And hopefully we will laugh together in addition to laughing at me at some of the things that we do. Okay? You ready for that? But I must warn you that what I'm about to share with you may be hazardous to your mind. I've divided the 5-part series into about an hour each in a progressive format. First of all, I call it Getting It All Together. It includes the attitudes about money, getting out of debt, how to keep records, all from a Christian perspective. Secondly, in the second part, the big things, such as buying, maintaining, and selling a home, and then the same concept for a vehicle. Thirdly, next we'll deal with what I call input and output, kind of a computer term, but you have to have inputs. You have to have income and the output, and hopefully the income is going to be a little more than the output. This is my favorite part. Making it last is the 4th section. It focuses on savings, planning, on retirement, investments. It's going to be a bit technical, so we'll take a break sometime in there. And then number 5 is paying ahead, dealing with estate planning, with gifting, passing on sound judgment, financial knowledge onto your children. I hope we'll have fun sharing together. If I go too quick, please stop me. I went to a seminar one time. He said, "Now, hold on to your seats. I'm going to be giving it to you like drinking from a fire hose." And I hope not to do that. So you stop me if you don't understand something. If there is a lot of personal questions you have, feel free at the break time to ask some of those personal questions. But usually questions are fairly generic, so feel free to ask anytime. Or add your comment. I'm here to learn too. I mean, I learn something new every time we have a seminar that I can incorporate into this. I have a handout that is a fill-in-the-blank format with a key information that will summarize my presentation. So Bobby, would you get that? Part number 1. Did everybody get part number 1 if they want to? Now, some people say, well, that's what we used to do in school, in elementary school. I don't want to fill in the blanks. But that's up to you. It's up to you. It's to try to keep you focused on the key points. In my presentation, there'll be aqua words that are in the bottom part, not in the top part, but in the bottom part, usually bolded and aqua, and I'll try to point that out so that you can follow what I'm saying. I've tried to designate these presentations to be practical, utilizing the theory of Christian writers. Please feel free to move forward here. I don't want to have people way back. We just have a small group here. So the difference in what I'm sharing is emphasizing the how-to. I don't want to leave you to say, well, that was interesting or helpful. Whenever I give a sermon, whenever I do something, I want people to come away with some kind of a tool to say, as I did yesterday, a tool to look at and to remember that. So I hope to give you plenty of information that you can take with you and you can utilize. Okay. But I would like to see you start making changes that will enhance your final understanding. Be ready for any emergency, especially for retirement. So any questions at this point? Anybody have any questions? Any comments? So these little tags, I just started this time, and I'd say, the last seminar, I'd say, well, if somebody raise their hand, I'd say, yes. And it's nice to call somebody by their name. So I may not call you by your name, but at least it helps me to know who you are. So little name tags there, and then a little sign your name registration part in the other room. David, we got some stuff over there. And do you have part 1? Okay. All right. Let's ask the Lord to guide us as we begin our process. Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, I want to thank you for a beautiful day. I know it's a great day to be outside working in the garden, and people have chosen to be here to learn about finances, and hopefully this will be of benefit and help them throughout their life. We're here to learn together, and I pray that you would guide and direct me as I speak. Help me to be clear. Help me to be on target as I share my personal opinions in many cases and experiences. In Christ's name I pray, amen. And that's what I'm going to do, is share my personal experiences. You may not agree with some of the things I say, and that's fine. So please feel free to come forward. You may not agree. First of all, I'm not a certified financial planner, so I don't want to be sued, and you haven't paid anything for this, so you can't hold me legally responsible, but I want to just let you know this is our personal experience, and I like to have people to encourage them to study out for themselves. So if I prick your interest in one area, say, oh, well, I need to do that. You've got a piece of paper you can write down and say, I need to check on that. I have some books in the back that will help to explain about retirement, which is a very key part as well. Don't take the information as absolute. This is my opinion, this based on experience. It's worked for us, may not work for you, but we'll go from there. So who are we? Dennis and Bobby Platt, Milburn. I lived on one salary, nonprofit organization. You've heard that before. My parents were hourly workers. My wife's parents was salaried and hourly. We both have a master's degree in business and nursing. During the summers, to earn my way through school, I canvassed, raised calves. My folks lived on a farm, as I said. I raised some calves. They took care of, I'd get them started in the summer, and they'd feed them during the wintertime while I was in school. My wife did secretarial nursing, pay her way through academy and college. How did we handle our finances? Well, both of us were fairly frugal, paying as we went. We had to decide jointly how to pay bills and how to make purchases. And, you know, my wife was very efficient. She loved to do bank reconciliations, all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, sweetheart, you're so good at this. Why don't you do that? And she says, no, you're going to do that. So as somebody said in the previous seminar, you kind of know who's the boss in the family. So I did what I was told. So that's my first credit card I got in college. I didn't ask for it. They just gave it to you then. Now you have an application and you got everything. But Exxon card, and I guess I used it because I built up some kind of credit. But we hated debt, and we used credit cards sparingly. Always faithful with returning tithes and liberal with offerings. We live simply, frugally, but happily. So what are the results of that? What happened to us? We've kind of gone through our working years and now in retirement. We've retired with 80% of our previous earnings with Social Security and a modest pension through the church. We have a reasonable amount in investments. I went to one seminar. A person was giving a presentation. He says, I have $1 million. Well, I don't think you should share that kind of information because that implies that you haven't made it unless you have $1 million in the bank. One person said, another person said, well, I can't retire until I have $1 million. Well, how much, we want to get into what it's really going to take and what you need there. So a reasonable amount of investment. We've married 40 years. That's a great accomplishment. We've had one child, 3 grandchildren. That's a great accomplishment. She did great for us. Never paid interest on a credit card. No card payments for 30 years. A house paid off 4 years ago. It took us 35 years because we too couldn't hold a job. You know, we moved to different places all over the New England and Midwest and the South. So when you move and you buy and sell houses, you know, it takes a little longer than the 30 years normally. We have visited all 50 states. We've been to 38 countries of the world. Not bad on one salary to be able to do that because we're frugal. We save for the things that we really wanted to do. Okay, whoop, man, I'm pushing the buttons and where are we at? Okay, understanding Christian priorities. First of all, God owns everything. We're His managers. We live to glorify Him. Prosperity is having our needs met. Debt is a curse. Tithe is a minimum evidence of Christian commitment, and in the judgment, we have to give an account. So those are the guidelines and kind of the basis for what I'm going to share with you today. One Christian writer said this, Money has great value because it can do great good, but money is of no more value than sand. I thought that was so neat. I had to put that in here. No more value than sand, only as it is put to use in providing for the, and here's the three fill-in-the-blank things. You notice? Necessities of life. So if you're filling in the blanks in there, necessities of life, blessing others, and advancing the cause of God. So you see kind of how that works, the little turquoise things. If you want to do that, that's fine. So necessities, blessings, and advancing the cause of God. All right? Thriving. What is thriving? I say thriving on one income. So what does that mean? In my opinion, it's not splurging. Thriving is not splurging, but rather having what you need and being content with what you have. We can be content with very little things. You go overseas and you see people that are happy, children and parents that are happy because they have the basic needs. They don't have the fancy car. They don't have the fancy house, but they have a loving family and they're in good health and they have what they need. We can have anything we want. And as I shared with you yesterday, I threw away some lottery tickets. I don't know what I would do with that extra money. We probably wouldn't change what we're doing if we got a lot of money. We wouldn't. I mean, we have a car, and it has a steering wheel and four wheels, and so does a fancy car, a Jaguar that I saw for sale on the way up here. I could have had that, but I don't want that because I have four wheels already. I have a house with some bedrooms in it and bathrooms and heat. We have what we want. It's just that we have trained ourselves not to clamor for the latest and the greatest things. And then people's spending grows to meet their income. Have you noticed that? If somebody gets a raise, what do? They buy a new car. They say, I got a raise, man. I got enough money to do a down payment on a car and then go into debt. So, three frowny faces there. The original sin. You know, we pick on the women in Eden, and here is an attempt to say that if Eve didn't sin, then the fellow would do it. So here's the modern day sinning. And this is my version, the DMV version, the Dennis Milburn version. So when man saw that the car was good for speed, that it was beautiful to the eyes, and a car desirable to make one's head turn, he took the sales pitch and bought it. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew they were in debt. So that's the man's version, in the modern version of the original sin.
Thank you for not putting it all on me.
Good. Yes, David.
Before we get too far away from the lottery tickets,
Yes.
I must say that I feel very guilty about not buying the lottery tickets.
Oh, really? Tell me why.
Because both of my sons went through college on that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, as I shared with you, not everything that I say is going to apply to everybody in every situation.
If you're in Georgia, is it paid for college?
Yeah. Well, I just heard the son of a church member, and some of you would know who this is. They were teasing him about paying $5 a week in the lottery. They said, you're just wasting your money. You're wasting your money. Well, he did win part of the lottery, $250,000. Wow. So anyway, but that's the exception and the rule. You understand? That's the exception to the rule. This is what I shared with you yesterday. John Wesley, the Methodist founder, make all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. The times have changed in the last 50 years. What is different? I mean, we didn't have these problems 50 years ago. Credit card debt. I mean, people paid cash. They bought things that with cash and with money they had. They didn't put it on credit. We have to save for retirement. In those good old days, when you got old, you moved in with your kids, right? Your kids took care of you. And now, you know, we want to...
You're not going to do that now?
Well, mine probably aren't. I don't know. I better take my jacket off here.
That was my retirement plan.
Yeah, we raised you. Maybe the grandkids will take care of us. Identity theft. We didn't have that either. And extra high health care costs. I mean, they keep you alive it makes no difference what it costs. We're going to keep you still breathing, your heart pumping. You know, we try to do that. So 50 years ago, in changing times, take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. And I bought some pennies. I got some pennies here. I thought this was so cool. These are some Indian head pennies. They're 100 years old. So some little cufflinks there. So take care of the pennies. But that was in the 1700s when he talked about the pennies. So what is it today? Today we might say take care of the dollars and the hundreds will take care of themselves. Because some people don't even want to pick up a penny. I still do. I pick up a penny on the road. So the danger signals of financial bondage. And here's another fill in the blank thing. Charge when you don't have the money. These are things that you can check on yourself and make sure. O.J. McKinney, this is a list. He used to be the stewardship director for the Southern Union. And I like this. I'd like to borrow as much as I can because I'm not too original in myself except for the original sin. Pay off bills, the danger signals. We pay off bills, put off paying off bills until next month. When we borrow to pay off a fixed expense such as taxes or insurance. When creditors are calling, when you can't put money in savings, when you take savings to pay bills, when you open a new credit card to pay off another one, when it's difficult to return tithe and pay offerings to God, when you and your spouse argue about finances, you know you're in trouble. You know you're headed down a path there. So don't and argue are the key words there, okay? Okay, here's something I got from Experon. So 3.1 credit cards per person. Average balance $6,354 on the credit cards. Someone has said we can give our way out of debt. It's an interesting thought. Donate and give more money, get out of debt. So, a condition today, debt robs of you of the freedom of choice. Financial maturity is giving up today's desires for tomorrow's benefit. So long range, you're thinking long range whenever you're thinking about finances. Tomorrow's is the key word there. Credit. A credit card is what you use today to buy what you can't afford tomorrow where you're still paying for yesterday, right? Wow. So properly managed, though, credit cards can be handy as well as harmless. Mismanaged, they can ruin one's financial future. So they can be harmless if we pay it off. It's a great opportunity. Harmless and ruin. So the credit magnitude. Let's assume one incurred a debt of $2,000 on his or her credit card, which is typical, and routinely sends in only the required minimum payment. Takes 33 years to pay off that $2,000 debt. The interest during that period at 20% will be $7,125.98. In short, you borrow $2,000 and pay back $9,125.98. What a deal for the lender, that is. Finances and marriage, 68% of the people in 1,000 survey participants reported that finances were a source of strife in their home. And 1 in 4 broke up their dating because, broke up with the spouse, got a divorce, broke up their spouse due to financial issues. It takes two to tango. Now, if you've ever watched the tango, it is beautiful. I mean, the motions in there. I'm not very coordinated. I can't do that, and I don't dance anyway. But it takes two to tango, but it also takes two to tangle. And somebody shared with me yesterday, you know, we really need to work together as a family to, if you're not together as a family, you're going to have a rough way to go. So you've got to work together as a family. Changing attitudes, and you can do this. You can change an attitude. You must work together. So ways to solve financial problems: plan together. When you plan together, when you get buy-in, when you work together on something, whether it's in a committee or whatever, you get their opinion and their input. You may not come out exactly the way you want, but at least you have a plan and you work together. You make a budget together. The purse holder needs to give the spouse some cash to spend with no accounting. Some cash, the purse holder. The purse holder may be the husband, maybe the wife, whoever's writing the checks, taking care of the finances. Sometimes the women are better than the men. So whoever's doing that, they need to give them some cash to spend. Review the status together on a regular basis. The purse holder needs to keep the spouse informed in case of illness or death. How many people do you know that someone passes away, maybe the husband has been in charge of the finances, he says, honey, I'll take care of it all, don't worry about it. And so all of a sudden he dies, and she is just beside herself. She doesn't know where to start. Where's the money? Where's their assets? How do I get started in this? It's just a really challenge. So we need to put that together. I have put together a one-page sheet. It's a net worth sheet. We'll get into that a little later. A one-page sheet that tells at a certain points, maybe once a quarter we'll do this, once every 6 months, what all of our assets are, if we owe anything, which we don't, where our trust is, where our will is, where they're kept, and that kind of information, one-page sheet. And I've told my wife knows where it's at, my daughter and son-in-law know where that's at. So if my wife and I were both killed in an airplane accident, they can go right to that piece of paper, pick it up, and say, okay, here it is. Here's what I need to look for. Yes?
Can you provide us with a sample of this?
I will give you I will give you a net worth sheet. There's a net worth sheet there, which is really interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's really, I think that's a good exercise to do that. Yes, sir.
If you use Quicken to track your finances, it'll give you your net worth, and actually it can be up to date daily depending on the downloading capabilities.
Great. This man here is technologically up to date. I'm still back in a little bit in the dark ages, but it's worked for me. I've used computers for 40 years, 30 years since they were invented, but certain things I like to have hard copy. But thank you. Yeah, anytime. Feel free to share, and that works for people, and I want you to use whatever works for you. Okay, and most of all, be flexible on both sides and pray together. So, did you know that every home has 2 washing machines? You didn't know that, did you? There's the washing machine that we put our dirty clothes in, but there's the brain washing machine. Because when you listen to it, you've got to buy that new car. You've got to, and I love the one, and we'll see this a little later, but a classic one. Did you know that your mattress doubles in weight in 8 years? You've heard that. You've heard that on the news. It doubles in weight, and it's also worn out in 8 years. But you'll be happy to know that they'll sell you a mattress for only 96 months payments. So you're going to pay for the entire life of your mattress. You're going to be in debt for your mattress, but it doesn't double in weight. I mean, yeah. But anyway, that's what the television tells you. And so puts all these things in your mind, so all those advertisements. So a thirst for more things. Now, I ran across this and I just added this. A luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. A luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. You know, you've got to have that. You've got an increase in income, so you do something special, and now you've got to continue to do that. Changing attitudes. Get over the idea that getting and staying in control of your burdens has to be a burden. It is actually a relief once you go through the effort of getting there. Do you know who this man is here? Fred Flintstone. I mean, he was the happiest person I could find. Yeah. So anyway, it's a relief. It's a relief to be in control of your finances, but it's a little painful getting there. But when you work toward that goal, it's great. New versus gently used. You do not have to have a new car. Now, what have your parents said? What is the term that your parents have said to you? Buying a used car is buying someone else's what? Problems. Okay? Sticks in your mind, doesn't it? I'm going to buy somebody else's problems if I buy a used car. And changing that attitude, you do not always have to have a car payment. Well, everybody does, so I guess I'll have to have a car payment too. I mean, it's just, I got to have a reasonable car. I've got to have a nice car to impress my friends and my church members, and I've got to have a new car, and I've got to have something reliable. So I need to change every couple of years, I guess, because after a year, after a year or two, it's kind of worn out. You do not have to have all new furniture when you buy your first house. Adopting new ideas. The only thing harder than getting a new idea into the mind is getting an old one out. And that's back to that thing about the car. You're buying somebody else's problems. Credit debt. You do not have to have a high interest credit balance just because everybody else does. Be different. 0 is great. I'm debt free. Would you want to be the one on the left side or the one on the right? So my mom had a lot of sayings, but this one I think is good. Things worth waiting for, worth having or worth waiting for. It took me a long time to find my wife, so I'm glad. It's been 40 plus years, for almost 42, so it was worth waiting for. But when we appreciate things we save for, if we're buying something, we appreciate things we save for. We appreciate them better. A simple formula: spend less than you make. I mean, I'm a mathematician, but I mean, that doesn't take an Einstein to figure that out, right? Spend less than you make. Simple math: if your output exceeds your input, then your upkeep will be your downfall. How do you like that? Say that very fast. If your output exceeds your input, then your upkeep will be your downfall. Okay. Are your finances weighing you down? The best time to plant an oak tree is when? 30 years ago. What's the next best time? Today. Today, we can plant an oak tree. We may not see it very big, but it's never too late to plant an oak tree. So Dave Ramsey, I was talking with someone yesterday, and we were talking about Dave Ramsey. And how many of you have been to Dave Ramsey's program, listened to his Dave Ramsey's program? 1, 2 people? 3, 4? Okay. Half of that's my family. Baby step number 1 is have a cash balance. If you're just getting started, have at least $1,000 in beginner emergency fund. That's to fill in the blank. Baby step number 2 is to pay off all your debt but the house. Use a debt snowball. We'll talk about what that is in a little bit. A fully funded emergency fund. After you get your debt paid off, put 3 to 6 months in emergency fund. And then baby step number 4. I know I'm going fast here, and there's a lot to fill in. Baby step number 4 is invest a goal of 15% of your household income into retirement. Step number 5 is start saving for college. That's assuming you have children. Number 6 is pay off your home early. And number 7 is build wealth and give generously. And I hope we would be doing that from step 1 on, giving generously. Okay? Everybody get that? I don't want to move fast because this is a lot in that one spot there. Okay? $1,000 debt, 3 to 6 months, 15%, college home generously. All right? Next. If you miss something here, I have some sheets. You're welcome to look at that later. Dave?
What if somebody is at one level, but then sophomore, or you need to go back and do another? You don't have to go in order. I mean, the recommendation is in order. But
Yeah, the recommendation is in order. And as you know, life will cause you to go 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So you're going to have things that are going to mess up that. Illness, losing a job, whatever. You do the best you can, and this is your goals to seek for. So 10 steps to make in your 20s. Most of us here aren't in our 20s, so that's basically the same thing there. Won't spend a lot of time on that, but good information for those younger families. Emergency fund. So find out where you are, a net worth. So here is the net worth page. And when I first saw this and I first thought about doing this, I thought, well, you know, is this like King David counting the people in Israel? Is God going to curse us because we're going to count all the people, get a census of the people? And I thought to myself, no. This is to find out where we're at. If we have a goal, those are going to be back there at the break time. You can pick these up. But if we have a goal, we need to know whether we're reaching that goal, whether we're out of debt, whether we're worth $1 or negative or whatever. So it helps us to know to stay on track and to be making improvements. Analyzing the problem. There's all kinds of budget sheets online. This one's a very complex one. So I put together this here, or I found this online, and you're welcome to have that as well. It just tells you, when you put things down on paper, it helps to analyze that, where you're at. The budget recommendations, I just added this slide recently. I said, well, you know, and this is the one that was most beneficial. I saw some, it said, gave a range of this to this, and I took the right-hand number. I'm a mathematician, so I like math. I took the right-hand number, and it ended up to 140%. And I said, that ain't going to work. So this here is Dave Ramsey's, and he says tithe and offering should be 10 to 15. If all you can do is 10, do 10, and then give more as the Lord blesses. You can give more than 15. That's not a minimum requirement. This is just Dave Ramsey's thought. Food, 5 to 15%. Savings, 10 to 15%. There's his 15%. Housing, 25 to 35%. Somebody was talking yesterday, so they were paying a rent of $800 on a $2,000 income a month. That's going to be really tough. That's about 40%. So then the rest of your budget, so I've taken the lower numbers, and I said, okay, the rest of your budget, your other things, your dry cleaning and your entertainment and whatever, is 50%, and then if you go to the far end, you only got 20% left, so including clothing, transportation, insurance, entertainment, and come up to 100%, okay? Savings, all right? If you're just coming in, there are some fill-in-the-blank sheets out here. You're welcome to get that, and then a little name tag if you can get that, that'd be good. And these slides, I know there's a lot of material I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to make these slides available to you, to your pastor or whoever, and then you can just email him and he can send those to you or give them to you. So it'd be in a PDF format. So the problem, the promise, and the provisions. Proverbs says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. But my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. And then Malachi, the promise is that if we bring all the tithe into the storehouse, he will open the windows of heaven in blessing to us. There's freedom through self-denial. Another quote here, deny yourself 1,000 things rather than run into debt. Avoid it as you would the smallpox. Take care of the pennies, and the dollars will take care of themselves. Work them off as fast as possible. When you can stand forth as a free man, owing no man anything, you will have achieved a great victory. How to get out of debt. Okay, here's 4 fill-in-the-blank things. Give ownership of everything to God. Give God his honest portion to his church. Stop all spending not absolutely essential. Stop all new indebtedness immediately. Promise to put all extra income in debt down payment. So what does that mean? Okay, let's say let's say you get a nice tax refund, get $2,000 tax refund. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to go out and eat? Are you going to down payment on a car, as I said? Are you going to go on vacation? Or if you have debt, are you going to put it on the debt and get that paid off? That is a promise that you need to pay, to put all the extra income and debt pay down. Sell or replace cheaper all depreciating items. We'll talk about what depreciates and what appreciates, causing debt. Closely examine food costs. Cut down to a 15% minimum. Begin immediately to do it yourself for services. Set a challenging goal for debt pay down payment each payday. Make getting out of debt a family effort, including children. If you've listened to Dave Ramsey on the radio, he has this thing where people call in and say, I finally paid off all my mortgages and my house and everything are debt free. And then he allows them to yell together, we're debt free. You know, it's great. It's a release. And the kids also can yell, we're debt free. So they know mom and dad went through that process. And now, as he said, you're changing the family tree. You're changing those kids so that they realize that they don't have to be in debt and they can get out of debt if they work together as a family. Okay? Choose the pay down method. Now, there's two pay down methods that are listed here. One is called the debt avalanche. It seems to make sense, the debt avalanche, to pay off the one that has the greatest, the highest interest payment. I mean, that's logical sense. I mean, financially, that's the better approach, it appears. However, you didn't get in there by accident. You're not going to get out of it by accident. You're going to have to work at it. So the debt snowball is what Dave Ramsey recommends, and most financial advisors recommend. The debt snowball says, take your littlest debt you have. You're going to list those debts. Take your littlest one, and you pay that one off first, making sure you pay your other payments, your minimum payments, the other. Get that one paid off, and you say, yes, I made it. Okay, now you're going to start working on the next smaller one. And yes, I made it. You're going to have successes along earlier as you go, and that's what's called the debt snowball. You know how you take a snowball, if any of you have lived up north, you take a snowball and you have a little one, and you just keep rolling, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're paying off more and more as you go. So that's the preferred method, and the method that psychologically is better for you. So here's a plan to pay it off, and I couldn't find one, so I made one in Excel, and that's out there too. So you can put all your debts there, list your priorities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I'd list them, the smallest one first, and just maybe do it on another piece of paper, and then a 6-month plan so you can kind of see where you're at. All right, so making decisions. Now, you have to remember 4 things. You set goals and times for accomplishing. If you deviate it, get back on track. It's kind of like our relationship with the Lord. If we foul up, we get back up on our feet and say, Lord, I'm sorry I goofed up, and keep going. You don't quit. You don't say it's useless. You say, okay, we're going to try again. Rejoice at achieving each goal. Stay on track, and it all takes discipline. Here's a book, and I know you can't write all that down, but if you had that and copied that off, if you get the slide, it's a government's thing. It has all kinds of information in it, that several pages of budgets and all kinds of calculators and all. It was interesting. Evaluate your method of payment: cash or checking, debit or credit, payroll deductions, bank withdrawals. If that's your what is your problem financially? If so, make the changes, make the decision to make the changes you need to make. So what are the pros and cons of a credit card?
Points.
Pardon?
You earn points.
Yeah, great. I see, does this work? Yes. Oh, no, where's it at? Okay, there it is. There, pros: cash balance, mileage, or points. I got a check for like $700 and some. I just cash it in. Somebody told me they're getting $250 a month from their thing. So it's a great deal. It gives you fraud protection. I go through and I check and see, did I buy this? And I make sure my receipts match up with that. There's a grace period given for interest-free loan, and it builds credit. The bad parts are that interest charge build up if not paid in full. And there's fees for late payments in some transactions, and it's easy to overspend. Say, well, just flip that card out. The kids say, we don't have any money. Well, we still got checks. We still got a credit card. Go ahead and buy it, Mom and Dad. You got a credit card. The debit card, pros and cons. There's a spending limit to your bank account balance. You can't spend any more than what's in there. There's no interest charges or monthly payments. May qualify for high interest checking. The disadvantages are that few credit cards offer cash back or rewards. There's weaker fraud protection. I've had something back on a credit card. I had something show up on my credit card, and I said, I didn't buy this. I let them know. They check it out and say, we'll take that off. Okay? Or maybe I forgot what it was, or they named it something different. And I said, oh, yeah, I did buy that. So they check back with you. There's fees for overdrafts. So if you bounce, go beyond their checking account. And it doesn't build credit history. So cash and checking. So it's easy to set spending limits. Can't be stolen in a data breach. Some retailers offer cash discount. The gas now, you get a cash discount for gas now. That's a new thing just in the past few years. What's that? Yeah. And can't track spending automatically. Typically, fees for out-of-network ATM. No protection if stolen. Doesn't build credit history. And I got to make a confession here. We're one of these people. We write checks. We're old-fashioned. We don't use ATMs. We go to the bank. We talk to the people at the teller. We give them a piece of literature. We make friends with them. So, we're old-fashioned, but it's worked for us. And I know that's passé. We're in this new age where everything is electronic and you don't need to write any checks. You just let everything come in and out of your checkbook. Payroll deductions. Payroll deductions are great. Payroll deductions for savings is great because you don't see it. Remember the miller? He took the money out. They didn't see it. They didn't know that so they didn't spend it. Pardon? They didn't know they missed it. So payroll deductions. So automatic bank withdrawals. No worry for missed payments. Some people, don't do the checks, but they have everything coming in and out of their checking account or their credit card. No worry for missed payments. They save time and save stamp and time. They say, well, save a stamp. Okay, well, a stamp's not much, 40 cents. The disadvantage is if you don't have to write a check and see the amount, you are less concerned about the amount. And I was just reading that to my wife in the Kiplinger magazine. This financial magazine says if you're having to write checks for utility bills and it's gone up, all of a sudden you start shouting at the kids and say, you kids got to turn these lights out. This bill is getting high. But if it's coming automatically out of a check, you don't see it. It's just going to go out and you won't even think about it. Keeping records. Keep it simple. And this is what we've done. We have 2 checkbooks with the running balance. So my wife has a checkbook. She has cash. She has a credit card. I have the same thing, but my checkbook is the one that has a balance. So I record it every once in a while. I'll look at her checkbook and update. She doesn't write a lot of checks, so update it, and it works for us. 2 file folders. You see these simple little file folders here. One for the credit cards, receipts. So when we go buy something, I stick it in my wallet. She sticks it in her purse, and when we get home, we just stick it in that. Just throw it in that folder. No fancy thing. We don't have to pull out a drawer. Which month is this month? No, just one file folder. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple. And then we have another file folder that we put our statements in. When I pay my credit card statements, I put it in there. So now we need to look back 3 months and we want to return something. Okay, we got it all there. It's attached. I can pull it out. So just a simple A simple thing. I told you this was going to be dumb simple class today, so it's a how-to. Small accordion file for all paid bills, cash receipts, payroll stubs, donation receipts, everything. Just an accordion file. And I put little tabs on it, paid bills. I don't divide it up into utilities and all that kind of stuff. I just paid bills, income, cash receipts. I just drop them in there. Retention, somebody corrected me and said, no, it's 7 years. The IRS can go back 7 years for taxes, but I'm saying, keep your receipts 6 years. That's maybe way over what you need. Yeah, some people say 3 years. That's probably more sufficient, but if there's a question, I go back. Permanent for tax records. We're into family history, so I like to keep records and kind of look back and see how little I made 40 years ago. So I have just one little folder. Shred any documents have Social Security numbers, credit cards, bank account numbers, check deposit slips. Have a lockbox for important papers or home assets, written or video records of all the home assets. Now, I still have that to do. I have to make a confession. I should open up all the drawers in the dressers in the house and take a video camera and just walk around. I don't want to write everything down, so you just take a video camera. But then you need to make sure that you put that copy of what you made, you take it off site, because if the house burns down, your camera's going to burn down too. So actually, I'm taking my backup of my computer over to Dave and Marlene's, and it's changing that with them, so that if our house burns down, it's all there. If my computer crashes, it's there. Reconcile. Check the credit card statements for problems before paying, for correct amounts, fraud, ID theft. Review checking account monthly for accuracy. I had a check go through, went to the park, state park, and my check went through and somebody else's check went through my account. Well, it was like 3 or 4 months later, and they said, I'm sorry, sir, but you should have contacted us within 30 days. It was 20, 28, 30 bucks. It wasn't a whole lot. But anyway, so try to keep up with that. If banking online, make sure the charges are correct. Keep it simple.
You go back one.
I go back one? Yeah, yeah. Okay, taxes, keep it simple. All the records in one place. Remember that accordion file? It's all there. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make a comment about credit cards.
Yes.
Just a little advice. Just in case you find yourself in a situation where you may be a few months behind. A lot of people, they think that they can't really do anything about that, what they owe, and that they have to pay everything that they owe. But some credit card companies, they actually re-age your account, and a lot of them will remove a lot of late fees as well, so that can help you out.
Yes.
Debt.
Yes, that's right. I had that. I have a Visa card and a Discover card, and I sent a check in like 10 days in advance before it was due, and they said it didn't get here on time. So I called Discover card and I said, I've been a customer of yours for a number of years, and I don't know why it took a week to get to to your bank, and why you didn't get it in there, and I said, I'd like to ask that you take that finance charge off. And they did. So, yeah, just ask. That's very, very important. Thank you.
They'll also bring your interest rate down if you talk to them.
Yes, and that's helpful in paying your debt. Remember, if you're not paying it off every month and you're trying to get out of debt, try to get those interest rates down. Thank you, Dave. That's great, because you talk to them and they have some mercy. Summarize for the CPA or better, yet do it yourself with software, state and federal. So make sure when you get if you're doing it online, you get the state as well as the federal. You have to make sure it's on the box.
In an earlier slide, 1 or 2 before, you were saying about keeping all of your receipts and paid bills and things for the year and retention of how many years.
Yes. No.
Or is it more important that you're keeping what was utilized for the purpose of taxes?
I put all the things that relate to taxes in a folder just like this. And it says taxes 2017. So everything is in there that's on my tax form. So it's just in that folder. It doesn't take up much room. But no, you don't need to keep all of those.
Like, you know, if you keep
If you buy clothes or food, you know, it's just, what I don't want to do is say, okay, well, okay, do I keep this or don't I keep this? Well, should I throw this away or don't I throw? On my email, I save every email. I just put it in a file. I just dump it in a file. I don't delete any email unless I know it's spam. So I don't want to have to make decisions because I want my life to be simple and not complex.
So it's just easier to take everything from there and put it in, and 6 years from now you toss the whole thing.
Yeah, that's right. So my accordion file, I just dump it in the trash, as long as it doesn't have any credit card numbers or anything like that. So I just dump it. Okay, now I use that I recycle that accordion file into 2018. Okay, so yeah, thank you. All right, I put everything in a 9 by 12, so the 8.5 by 11 fits in a 9 by 12 folder with a big felt tip marker on it, taxes 2017. And then plan your W-4 exemptions to give you a refund. Okay. Now, some people say, well, don't let the government use your money. Well, I just don't want to pay them money. So all of a sudden I have to cough up some cash out of my checking account. I want to get a little bit of money back. Maybe not a huge amount. If it's $5,000, $6,000, that's something. But yeah, I want to get 1,000 or 2 or something like that. So just an idea.
If you have estimated taxes if you're self-employed, if you don't pay them on time, they
Oh yes, yes, that's a whole nother ball game, and I'm not getting into that, but yeah, that's very important to keep track of that. Avoid identity theft. Having a password for internet login written down, make those passwords long enough, 8+ characters, best to use phrases. Shred documents, we've already talked about that. Freeze your credit. 3 credit agencies that need your request. Keep the info to unfreeze. You can unfreeze for a day or days with a verbal PIN code. Now, that was kind of a new concept. I thought, well, once you froze it, you've got to pay something. You've got to pay them $15 to have them. I haven't paid anything. I froze all 3 of my. We don't get any loans, so therefore we don't need any. We can have money in savings we can pull out if we have an emergency. If we need to buy a car, we just pull out of savings. So we don't need that. Now, I changed my gas provider in Atlanta. I don't know if you have this, but you can go on and get a quote, get a lock-in contract for 1 year or 2 years or 6 months or whatever, and you can lock that amount in. Well, they had to check my credit. And I said, well, I've got my credit frozen. I said, no problem. Just call up this one credit agency and tell them that you want to unfreeze it for 2 days or whatever. And call me. I'll call you on Friday and we'll check it. So I did that. I said, well, freeze it, unfreeze it on Friday and release it back on Monday. So he called me on Friday and he says, okay, I'm checking your credit. Yep, okay, it's good. I said, okay. All I had to do is make sure I had my code, my PIN, so I could unfreeze it for that certain number of days.
But I've run into this, I did freeze mine, and when I called in order to undo it over the phone version, it denied me and said my information wasn't correct and it couldn't match me and that I would have to go online. And that was the whole point of using the telephone is human
Yes.
interaction and not giving it all away online.
Yes, yeah, I don't know. It was just one agency that I used,
Yeah.
Experion, the one that was having problems. Yeah, I'm sorry, you know,
Yeah, no, there is something that they've made difficult about it.
yeah, okay. Question or comment in the back?
There is a cost to freeze or and unfreeze?
There's what? No, no, to freeze it didn't cost me anything. They say that it may cost a fee to unfreeze it, kind of permanent unfreeze, but this was a temporary, they call it a temporary thaw. A temporary thaw, so it's just a day or two or whatever. But I wasn't buying anything, I was just going to a gas company and they wanted to check my credit. I said, well, a Discover card gives me the credit, my credit score in there, I'll give you a copy of that. No, we need to check your credit agency.
A couple of things that I found out in the not too far off past was you got to be careful with credit, like opening up a line of credit to buy a set of tires for anything. That doesn't just automatically close when you've got those tires. And when Vicki and I got married, we went to change our insurance, car insurance. And they says, well, we've got a problem here. Your insurance rates are going up because of this. And I'm like, what? It's got to be Vicki. It can't be me.
Yeah.
Well, it was me because I had too much open line of credit.
Yeah, yeah.
They up your insurance rates.
Oh, isn't that something? That's
And
interesting,
credit
didn't know that.
cards will, if you don't watch out, they will up your
You're allowed to.
your allowed spending.
Uh-huh,
Because
okay.
I always tell them up front, I want this to cap out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I want you to spend more.
So
I think my credit card has $35,000. I mean, I could buy a car, just say, here, stick it on a credit card.
Well, so the caution here is what I learned, that the auto insurance industry has now used kind of the opposite thinking in order to help determine your rate. So we always thought it was good to build credit history to show that you could pay off and you could get these larger amounts and you could have open credit in order to, buy something on time without any extra fee. And the auto insurance industry has decided that they will look at it as, oh, you have too much open credit, therefore you're at a higher risk, so
Yes.
your insurance is going to cost more. So we're sitting there in front of the people, they're explaining this, and we're sitting there in front of the people going, well, that's ridiculous because insurance is paid as a monthly or quarterly or yearly fee, and all you have to do is cancel me if I can't pay my insurance on my car. So how on earth can you tell me that because we have too much open credit,
Yeah.
we should pay
Because you
more?
might borrow it all at one time. You might have a problem and borrow a lot of money.
If I run out of the country
Yeah.
with all my credit and I didn't pay for
Most
my
they're gonna be
car,
out is months.
yeah.
Yeah.
But this is something that they now do,
Yeah,
and people don't understand about it.
that's right.
And as a result, you might be paying more insurance for your car than you need to because you have open lines of credit with
Yes.
big
Wow.
R's.
Okay, get Linda. Linda, yes.
Okay, so here's my question, because they advise against closing the credit accounts. And so when you keep it open for a very long time and you are not using it after a certain time, how does that affect you?
I really can't answer that. Dave?
Very little?
Yeah, maybe if I
Yeah.
can talk to that.
Yeah.
If you go to Credit Karma, I don't know if you've heard of that, it's a place where it does free, gives you a credit score and all that. It gives you about how much that type of activity, closing your house, impacts your credit. Very minimal, very minuscule. I mean, like it's impact like 1 month,
Yeah,
maybe a little drop,
yeah.
but then it should pop right back up. So
Well,
you're being good controlling of it.
David had one that just canceled him because he hasn't used it in so long.
Right.
So they wrote and said, because you're not using it, we're going to close it.
Yep.
So he said, okay.
And you can get your credit score even though you have your credit frozen. I thought, well, if you had your credit frozen, you can't get your credit score. So I tried to go online to do it because I found it in the Kiplinger magazine that I could do that. I tried to go online. What's it called?
Annualcreditreport.com.
Annualcreditreport.com. I went on there and I put all my information in. It was all correct. And they said, I'm sorry, sir, but you cannot do this online. You have to do it You have to mail it in. So I said, okay, here's the form printed off for me and for my wife, and put all the information there. And yeah, some old credit cards we had a long time ago. Yes?
Just a point of clarification on the car insurance and the credit rate. They typically do it on credit score, and because they found that the demographics are that if you have a lower credit score, you are more likely to be involved in accidents. And that's how they judge that.
That would make sense.
There you go.
People with higher credit scores typically are not involved in as many accidents if you get a lower rate.
That's discrimination, huh?
Well, in our case, that wasn't true, because we had perfectly fine score, but they said you had too much open lines of credit. So
David?
it's held against.
One thing about the identity theft, those of us who've been in the military, I keep in touch with a few guys, and one guy sent me an email and had my last 4 of my social. And I'm thinking, how do you get that? Because when you travel, everybody's on this list, and they all black and white right in front of you, all your social security info. Thank God no one's, done anything with it, sold or anything, but I don't know if the military's changed that or not. But, well, I got all my paperwork at the house, and all the socials are right there.
Yeah. The Social Security Administration informed us that sometime this year, early in the spring, summer, they're going to give us new credit cards, new Social Security cards, Medicare cards, right? And it's not going to have our Social Security number on it, have some odd number. So that's
Well, I think
good
that
to know.
even driver's licenses.
Yeah.
When I first went in the military, of course, they gave me a number. Whenever I received my discharge, they had changed our serial numbers to Social Security numbers. My discharge had a
Ooh.
Social Security number on it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So if
Okay.
someone asked for my discharge papers, got my Social Security number.
That's
on it.
crazy,
Yeah.
But they didn't have an identity back then, so.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on here. We're almost finished with the first section. Okay, here are the 3. Somebody asked me, what are the 3 agencies? And if you go on there and say, what are the Google 3 agencies, these will come up. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. Okay?
They don't all agree with each other.
No, they got all different things, so, okay? And, whoops, here's what I like. Being happy doesn't mean you have it all. It means being thankful to the Lord for all you have. And we just love to have the grandkids crawl in bed with us. I mean, they sleep on pallets in our bedroom, and a little girl is asking, when can I come in and sleep, get out of my crib and come sleep there? But that's great. I just love that picture. It's not very good quality, but it's great. All right, we're going to take a break, just a few minute break to get a drink, whatever, and then I want you to come back. It's 12 minutes after. My watch says 12 minutes after. Let's come back in about 8 minutes. And I'd like you to do a fruit basket upset. I'd like for you to move forward here so you're not so far away, so I can see the whites of your eyes. So 20 minutes till, we'll come back. And we'll talk about cars and houses, the fun stuff.